evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast, episode 492. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So we are well on our way to episode 500. Cannot wait. Just so excited to get there. We have so many things in store for you, and it's just going to be one heck of an episode, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen. But on the way there, I obviously can't do this myself. So, as it has been here lately, let's get the man in here himself, the one and only Gabriel Arsene, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, Wrestle Talk Podcast family. How's it hanging, man?
All right. How are you doing tonight, Gabe?
I'm definitely excited because last week we didn't have the opportunity to have a guest. Or was it the week before that? I can't remember.
I believe it was last week. Our guest, unfortunately, had to cancel, but
Which happens. And, I mean, you know, that's the life of professional wrestling and the Wrestle Talk Podcast, of course. But fortunately, our guest was able to make it tonight, and me and you were able to make it tonight. So we're able to bounce back and, you know, talk some pro wrestling. I know we have a lot of stuff headed up into the high spots questions, and we have a fantastic guest to help us through our second hour. But with all that taken care of, introductions out of the way, did we want to hit? We know we have two things we have to take care of. Which one did you want to hit first?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We always got to take care of our housekeeping right here at the beginning, always. So let's go ahead and let's hit those sponsors. As always, we like to thank our great and wonderful sponsors, one and only Royal Mills Transportation. That's Dewan Mills with all your transportation needs out there in the Kansas City area. Nobleman's Barber Lounge, KCMO, Ask for Pete the Barber, Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall, Interstate 70 Sports Media, that's Jeremy Karp and the guys over there absolutely killing it. Little Popeyes Designs, where you can pick up your Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler. Just believe it's $20 plus, you know, you can get your name on it for another $5 and shipping and handling, but you know, you want one, hit us up. We'll be glad to get you taken care of. And, of course, as always, the world's premier fantasy wrestling league, the FWWC. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So, as always, you know, want to thank those great sponsors. We want to thank you guys as well for being here, you know, for checking us out. No matter whether you're catching us live or catching us on that replay, you know, thank you for being here. Make sure you hit that share button, that like button. Make sure that you, you know, send us some thumbs up, send us some hearts. Let us know you're out there. And, you know, as always, drop your comments.
Thumbs
we'll be more
down.
than
We're not
happy to
opposed
show
to
you.
We're not opposed to adversity here. Maybe you hate our opinions, but let us know. Like that's how we get people to check out the show, guys.
So, and I believe now on Facebook, you also have the ability to send us stars. if you like what we're doing. So,
minus 5 stars, the worst wrestling podcast on Facebook.
So feel
You're
free to
allowed
send
to.
us some stars. All right. So with that part out of the way, I think it's time we move on to the next one. Everyone's favorite part. They're always looking forwards to it.
How could we ever forget it?
And shout out to David Owen. What up? Thanks for checking in with us as always. So let's go ahead, ladies and gentlemen. It is that time where we like to pay homage to the best country around, that being America. So if you remove your hats, place your hands over your hearts, wave your flag if you got one for the playing of our national anthem.
If you listen, you can hear people cheering, but I think they're cheering because it's over.
And as always, it brings a tear to your eye every time, or blood to your ears, one of the two,
Or both.
So, but, we just like to have a good time here on Wrestle Talk Podcast. And, a lot of people have commented about the use of the national anthem and everything. And, it's a combination. One, we are paying homage to the country, and two, it just goes to show you that we're not here to be downright serious. We're here to have a good time, and so that's why we do what we do. So, but all right, I think that bit of housekeeping is out the way. We have a lot to talk about before we get to our featured guest tonight. The one and only wild man, Robbie Paige, will be here. And, but there is just so much going on in the world of professional wrestling right now.
Well, and I want to take the time to shout out AJ Francis, repping the We Outside shirt, my friend. Unfortunately, not able to retain his championship against PCO at Slammiversary. But you know what, dude? You're still a champ in my eyes. But with that taken care of, we're going to be talking lots of pro wrestling here tonight on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. TNA, WWE, lots of stuff happening in AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling. If we can think of it, if it's in your backyard, be sure to let us know because we're here to talk about it. But
if you happen to have something you want to talk about and we don't hit it, throw it in those comments. We'll be glad to bring it up and chat about it. Make sure you throw your 2 cents worth in the comments, because you guys are why we're here. So we love to have your feedback. So, but before we get into that, we got to hit the one and only DJ Money, ladies and gentlemen.
Mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like clear chops. We talk shop, coming through the screens of a laptop and non-stop like a runner speeches of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops, like a clock flash, look like a barely fly. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast. Now they know we about to start the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that DJ Money hitting it hard. Yeah, thank you for that custom music there from DJ Money. We really appreciate your support. And so, are you ready to get into this game?
I was ready when DJ Money came on. So, are you ready
All
to jump
right.
into it?
Let's hit that randomizer and see what it's got tonight. And the first question of the night is Bobby Lashley, a man we have not seen in a while here. And with former world champion Bobby Lashley's WWE contract set to expire soon, speculation arises. Could we see him make a return to the WWE, or will he land himself elsewhere? That's a tough one. I mean, I have heard that they are still working, trying to finalize a contract with him. But I've also heard, I mean, right now, if you go on WWE.com, he is still listed with the active
That's the
talent.
The ultimate sign. They're on the WWE website.
But I have also heard that he has been removed from the, I believe it's the backstage roster. So I don't know. It sounds like he may be moving on, and it sounds like he may, he may move in a different direction. And best of luck to him if he does. I don't think he'll have a problem being picked up. Honestly, if he leaves WWE, of course, everybody speculates, Tony Khan will be all over that. Shiny new toy hits the market. Got to go out and get it. So a lot of people speculating there. But, a match that I think would just be a banger of a match is if he left WWE. Could you see him going to TNA and see Moose versus Bobby Lashley?
I would say to see that match.
That would be awesome. So, if he's not going to stay with WWE, I'd love to see him go to TNA. And I think he could really help them over there. And like I say, when you got somebody like Moose over at TNA that you could pair him up against, that would be a hell of a match right there. So I think that would be a big benefit to TNA if they could get Lashley over there. What's your thoughts on it, Gabe?
Well, I couldn't agree more, Haas, only because for me, I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe he's done with his on-screen appearance in WWE, but that doesn't mean he's done working for WWE. And you mentioned TNA. They're still in a working agreement with Total Nonstop Action, if I'm remembering correctly. Charlie Dempsey and a couple others, I think, appeared on their card recently. So with a lot of the news coming up, and I know we have one question in the high spots segment that we mentioned. Shout out to Assad, by the way. Wrestle Talk Podcast family. Jimmy Harris Sr., thanks again, man. Welcome to the show. But for TNA, I mean, I want to see him land there, if anything. Him versus Moose obviously comes to mind. Heck, even just him versus Nick Nemeth. I mean, because Bobby Lashley in TNA was a very different beast to what he is compared to WWE. And he kind of tapped into that, but he also lost a little bit of that aura, I think, initially. So I'm curious to see what comes of it. I personally want to see this big epic feud where it's like TNA and WWE, but all the former TNA guys on WWE's roster kind of turncoat, so we got Lashley and we got AJ Styles, and I'm kind of torn on whoever else is in the working there that's been in TNA before, but I would like to see it happen. But that's just me.
But if he moves on, and I know they've already kind of moved in a different direction now, but um, does the whole Bobby Lashley and was it the Street Profits, does that whole thing seem incomplete now?
I mean, I think so. And I think there's a lot of people who will agree with me only because, they had their match win over the Authors of Pain and Karrion Kross at Mania, but then they've lacked to do anything so far. I mean, while WWE is serving as far as storytelling goes, there is a lot of stuff that's falling by the wayside. And I think something like the Pride kind of not really doing anything, just chilling in the background while Bobby Lashley is potentially slipping through WWE's fingers. I mean, it's definitely important that you bring that up. What happens to Montez? Wait, what is it? Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford.
Yeah.
What happens to them going forward if Lashley isn't there? Do they get a new figurehead? Is it just back to them being a tag team? I mean,
yeah, I mean, because that whole thing just seems incomplete to me now. And if he leaves, and unless they find some way to resurrect that story and complete it, it just seems incomplete if he leaves. And I mean, I've seen WWE do that before. There's been several other stories, that people have been in the middle of, and the next thing you know, oops, well, we're releasing you, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, the story isn't done yet. And so
it hasn't even started yet. Yeah,
right, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen that happen, but I hate to see it happen, but
it definitely screams wasted potential. That's for sure. Especially because I think we all think that all three men involved are very, very excellent talents. I mean, the fact that we're discussing Bobby Lashley's potential leaving in WWE says a lot. I mean, we definitely think he's a talent that they don't want to lose, and I'm sure there's a lot of people there. So the question is, how much is Triple H willing to pay, or does he see dollar value in Bobby Lashley going forward? So that's just me. But
it's definitely something to keep your eyes on and just see what happens, because I believe he may only have a month or two left on his contract, and that's at most. I know it's expiring sometime here soon. So
I know MVP has the most to say about it, but we're talking Bobby Lashley right now. So,
but all right, well. Are we ready for another topic, or? All right, let's do it. All right, Nick Nemeth. And our question on this one is, Nick Nemeth won the TNA World Championship at Slammiversary. In your opinion, does this benefit TNA long term? You want to start us out on this one?
Yeah, I don't mind starting. I think it does. I mean, we know TNA has been sort of this. What would you call it, John Haas? The train that could. TNA just seems to keep on chugging along. Every time you think it's dead, it manages to it pops its head back around, and the next thing we know, it's doing something incredible. And for me, I don't think anybody expected Nick Nemeth not just to be at the top of TNA, but to be at the top of TNA this far after leaving WWE. It has been a while, but it's nice to see that it's like, wow, he's still pumping out stuff like this late into his career. And especially towards the back half after leaving WWE, most people peter out or, jump off after they're done. So it's like, I like to see that he's doing that. And then as far as making him the figurehead, I think so. I mean, I think Nemeth can draw. I think he's a good talent. I mean, clearly he has great chemistry with whoever you put him with. He can work in any environment and knows how to play his role. Maybe I just sound a little, brown nosy with my statements here, but I think he's worth it. And I think TNA benefits from this. This is almost like Christian Cage 2.0 for me personally, but for different reasons. What do you think, though, Haas?
Yeah, honestly, I think they can benefit from it long term. And it's kind of like you said, they keep chugging along. They're kind of, to me, they're kind of like the up and down roller coaster, because you had it back at the beginning of the year. They rebranded, and they did all this stuff, and everybody got excited, and that roller coaster got up to the top, and then all at once it went back down, and people just kind of, they didn't talk about TNA as much, and then all of a sudden here comes Nick Nemeth, and the roller coaster goes back up, and everybody was talking TNA again, and then it kind of started to quiet back down, and then well, we're going to hang that title on Nick Nemeth now, and so everybody's talking TNA again. So they're kind of like an up and down roller coaster, and I think if they play it right, if they do things right, I think they can get long-term success out of this, and I think it can help push TNA to a new level and really keep them out there, keep people talking for a long period of time if done right. And that's always the question, is, are they going to do it right, or are they going to drop the ball? And that's anywhere. AEW is the same way. WWE, they got a lot of people, they've got a lot of stories, and if they do them right, people are going to be talking about them for years to come. But if they don't do them right, they won't remember them a month from now. So
I just wonder who they're going to pair Nick Nemeth with to begin with is all. Like, who on the roster besides the rematch with Moose? Because obviously that's in their back pocket. But, like, who's on the TNA roster that we would say is, like, a good match for him? I'm looking it up right now. I'm seeing what kind of roster they have.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure who they could match against him right offhand. But there's several people who are getting ready to enter free agency that they got released from the E, and they've gone through their waiting period, and they're about ready to actually be able to dive back in. And
I mean, we're all thinking Joe Hendry, right? Just to throw that out there. But who, I just passed them. Oh my gosh, I forgot their name. I had it for like 2 seconds and then I immediately lost it. I'm sorry. You were saying, Haas. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, like I believe it's Cameron Grimes that was released, that his waiting period is just about up now, so he's getting ready to hit the market to where people can start looking at hiring him and putting him on TV again. So there's people like that they could pick up and could potentially use and pair Nemeth against. Now, I'm not saying that would be the best person to pair him against, but you never know what's going to happen. So,
I mean, anything could happen. It's 2024, and like everything's already kind of happening already in the world of professional wrestling. I mean, we have a couple questions that cover some of this stuff, people. I mean, the fact that we're even talking about it, it's like, remember when we were like, hey, Nick Nemeth, he left WWE and he's in New Japan and in TNA at the same time. Like this is coming off the back half of him winning the global championship in IWGP. It was crazy.
And it's kind of funny the way they can cross over to all these different groups, and especially when you look at New Japan, because New Japan crosses over with TNA so much, and then also crosses over with AEW a lot, and it's just the way they can all cross over. But then you look at it, And for years, WWE's been, no, we don't want any of that. Now you're starting to see some of the TNA crossover, but that's really the only one you've seen so far.
No, we saw them in Marigold and Noah. They're
Well,
doing a
yeah,
couple things. And then Charlie
yeah,
Dempsey
sure.
went to All Japan. So it's like they're definitely a lot more open about it as far as like where they were for like 5 years ago. It's like I'm not saying that it's fully open, like we're not seeing a co-branded event yet, but I'm also saying don't rule anything out. Like me personally, Haas, I'm watching it's like Lucha Fantastica or something, but it's like CMLL, MLW, AEW, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I'm just like, what even? Like, this just like, I love when everything is co promoted and they treat it like this big exchange of talent. Like, it makes it feel more like a festival. And then it makes you appreciate all aspects of wrestling. It's not like, oh, this brand is better than this brand. It's more like, we're going to come together and show you the coolest shit you've ever seen.
Well, and ultimately, it brings more eyes to the product as well because of the fact that, you're going to have people from each one of those groups that, follow them that are going to want to see this match take place and they're going to want to see those superstars. So they're going to tune in. And a lot of times, and I know it's the whole goal of it, a lot of times you get these people tune in and they see some of these other people and they're like, hey, that guy's not too bad. And um, next thing you know, they're checking them out a little more frequently, and you've got a fan from a different group now. So,
I mean, that's how I find most of the wrestlers I like. I look like I can't pay attention to the people I do recognize. I'm like, yeah, okay, like Suzuki or Yodatsuji or whatever. And then I see somebody I don't recognize. I'm like, who's this guy? Who's this dude? Who let this guy on the card?
so all right. Well, I think we're ready for another topic. What do you think?
I think we're ready to go.
AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts. So, the upcoming AEW Dynamite will showcase a Blood and Guts match tomorrow night. Does this pique your interest and make you want to tune in? First off, for anybody who doesn't know, a Blood and Guts match is very similar to a War Games match. And it's basically two rings inside of a steel cage. And of course, the steel cage has a lid on it. And the only way to win is to submit or surrender. There is no pinfalls. And this is actually more like the match that was originated by Dusty Rhodes than what the War Games is. But it's the same basic idea. And tomorrow night's match, you're going to have two teams. You'll have the Elite, which will be the Young Bucks, Okada, Jack Perry, and Hangman Adam Page versus Team AEW, which will be Swerve Strickland, the Acclaimed, Darby Allin, and Mark Briscoe. So it definitely sounds like it's a match worth tuning in and watching. And
well, I want to talk turkey, Haas. Are you gonna watch it though?
I probably will. If I don't watch it tomorrow night, I always DVR AEW. So, I probably will watch it. Not necessarily just because of this match. I mean, I tuned into AEW either way. So, but this match does seem to be interesting. And the fact that they have a match like this on just a regular night, not a pay-per-view. It's kind of interesting that they're trying that. So
I mean, if I can be the one to interject on that, they've done blood and gutses before, and they've been on free to show TV. Like, I don't want people to act like, oh, this is a pay-per-view main event level caliber thing. It's like, yeah, but it's also able to cover a lot of stuff. Nothing. Let me ask you, what really gets accomplished at the end of a blood and guts match? Not much.
Honestly, in my opinion, I'm hoping that that the Elite loses, and you'll see the end of the Young Bucks' reign.
I mean, it's like the whole thing in the match is that there's no titles on the line or anything like that. I feel like this is the feud extender. So I feel like this is going to do a good job of setting up a lot of these future installment matches. Like, because I mean, I don't know what's going on with Jack Perry and the TNT title, but the Acclaim versus the Young Bucks, I'm like, okay, well, that works for the tag titles. I'm assuming Perry's going to challenge Okada. I don't know, quite frankly. And then Swerve and Paige are going to be taking each other on. But I mean, it has me peaked. There's a lot of names I recognize. I know it's going to be a car wreck, and sometimes I just like to see wrestlers crash into things. I just want Darby to be safe. That's my only biggest thing. I'm worried they're going to have to send him out wearing a coat made out of bubble wrap just so he'll make it through okay in one piece. Just do the one spot off the counter, and then you'll be fine. Like, just that's it.
Yeah, I mean, he did just return from injury, and he has a habit of being over the top. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what he does.
I just want him to get through the match. Okay, if he can get through this in one piece, then I'll be all right with it. That'll be the biggest accomplishment of this match in my mind. I won't care who wins or loses. I'll be like, yo, did Darby make it out okay though? Assad will be watching AEW Dynamite after work. I'll be recording the entire show. That's what's up. That's a diehard fan right there. And that's the thing, Haas. I want to mention, you don't hate AEW, do you?
No.
I don't either.
Like I say, I do. If I don't watch it live, I do DVR it and go back and watch it later, and so I do keep up with it. I know some people feel that they're the best company out there, and I honestly don't think that they are, but they do put on a decent product, I believe. So
I don't think they're the greatest product out there, but I don't think I was gonna say I don't think they're exempt from criticism, but I don't think they're exempt from getting their flowers either. I think AEW has a very nice product. I don't think you know what you're always going to get with AEW, and that's the appeal for me, is that you don't know if you're going to get some Texas Death Match, you're going to get your traditional sports edutainment kind of crap, or traditional just like strong style match or something like that. You're always guaranteed a show with AEW. The thing is, the show varies in its quality through and through. But I could sit here discussing that all night. But I also am one of the biggest defenders of AEW because I think a lot of people just write it off as diet WWE without actually understanding what they're trying to do differently. Or let's be real here, Haas. Everybody is an idiot when they like to pretend that one company botches more than another company does. And it's like they don't. They botch it equally as many times as the other, I think, is in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. So, and actually, this does lead into another question that is out there, which is WCW and AEW. AEW just had last week their 250th episode, and they're in their 6th season. WCW Nitro. Now, this was Monday Nitro on TNT, not WCW altogether. But Nitro had 6 seasons, 288 episodes. So the question with that was, as AEW approaches the milestone of surpassing WCW's benchmark of 288 episodes, do you feel AEW has made a bigger impact in the industry than WCW did?
Do I have to be the one to open this question?
If you want to, you can.
I'll be the one to say it because I feel like a lot of people are too scared to. Yes, I do think AEW had a bigger impact on the industry than WCW did. And I'm not even talking about the collective name of WCW because I will always respect the classic WCW stylings, like the Sting, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Ric Flair era. I will always consider that like peak, just time capsule of greatest rough and tumble wrestling you will ever talk about. But when we talk about the classic, like NWO, all the way to the 2000s, WCW, your Bill Goldbergs, your Bret Harts, your Diamond Dallas Page, all the whatever world orders, because there were so many at that point, it became stupid. That I can say without a shadow of a doubt that I think AEW has had a bigger impact. And I only want them to continue down this path and hopefully get better, just to prove that to all the naysayers out there who doubted them from day one. Because the comparison is always made, and I think it's made without understanding the fundamental differences between the two. And there's a lot of similarities, but we're not talking about the rise and fall of AEW just now yet, are we? But for me, I think it has a bigger impact. What do you think,
Haas? Honestly, I can see where, there's a lot of speculation going on about AEW that you also saw with WCW. The whole thing with the crowds and a lot of WWE wrestlers that they sign and bring over there, and there's just a lot of stuff that have been said over the years that was said about WCW that now people are saying about AEW. But when you really think about them, and I don't know, it may just be me, but WCW actually seems like, when you think about 288 episodes, it seems like they were around a lot longer than what they actually were. I thought they were around a lot longer than that. Of course, like I say, that 288 was also Monday Nitro. That doesn't include WCW before Ted Turner bought it, because it was around then. And they had a Saturday night show instead of a Monday night show. Doesn't include all that. So,
but this is the one that makes the most direct comparison, because like Dynamite's on Wednesdays, but it was supposed to go on direct contention with NXT.
Right.
So I don't know. That's just me. I think it's fair to like compare the two. It's like prime time, even if they're different time slots.
But when you look at the time that AEW's been around, it doesn't seem like it's been around that long. Honestly, it doesn't seem like it's been around almost as long as Nitro was. To me, it seemed like Nitro was around a lot longer. But so to me, they've started to come up and make a name for themselves, but I think they were slow in the beginning to really take off. And so I tend to think right now they're a little behind WCW in the legacy, but they, by the time they hit 288, maybe they'll be there. I don't know. But right now, I think they're lagging behind them. That's just my opinion.
I want to see what comes out of it. I mean, they still have MJF. I think they still have a lot of talent on their roster. I think they pull enough people as far as viewership is concerned. I do think they need to be smarter about how they fill up their houses, like their shows specifically.
Well, I've heard that their viewership is dropping. So, and I know I've heard that um, their house crowds are declining, and
Well,
so.
damn, Haas. Maybe I'm just optimistic.
But like I say, you heard all that about WCW before it was bought out too. And
That is true.
who's to say that it's really true? What we look at on TV, yeah, some of it's manipulated to look like there's more in the crowd, but at the same time, a lot of places that you go nowadays are bigger than the places WCW was going. So, they could be pulling in a lot more.
When WWF bought WCW, I stopped watching pro wrestling for 3 years. What happens if WWE buys AEW? What happens then, Haas? Do we all just take a pack and stop watching wrestling? No.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting, but
look, they never knocked the idea of collaborating with them. It just never happened.
So, all right. Well, let's see what else we have here. I'm not sure if Dewan's going to join us or not, and I believe Perry is not going to be able to join us tonight, unfortunately. But let's see what else we got in here. It's Mr. MJF himself. Come on. All right, there we go. All right, MJF will defend AEW International Championship for the first time at CMLL on August 2nd. What are your opinions on this? I really don't.
Want to take the lead on that, or
I really don't have an opinion on it, honestly.
I mean, then all right. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. No, for me, I mean, I think it's in line with the international championship. I think it's going back to what that belt is supposed to do, which is that, a lot of people forget that Cassidy was repping it, defending it on the indie circuit, going to different companies and, defending that belt. So it's nice to know that he's going to somewhere like CMLL and defending it against somebody. And I mean, I don't know who he's facing, so I'm sure it's going to be a good match. I mean, I have a couple of names that I'd like to see him face against that I've been checking out. And then as far as like future opponents go, I mean, besides CMLL, where else do I want to see him? I mean, I think we all want to see MJF and WWE just a little bit, but that's me being optimistic. I don't know. I mean, I would like to see him in MLW. I mean, just kind of peep in for like a cup of coffee and be like, hey, what's up? Got the international championship. Now, F off. I'm going to go home. Like, just like, I'm only doing this for a paycheck. That'd be lit. No, I can't really think of anywhere else. You got me on the spot. But what are your thoughts, Haas? I mean, I know you don't have much on like as far as the change.
Yeah,
I know this one's kind of going mild for you, but what do you got?
I mean, honestly, it's like you say, it is the international championship. So being defended internationally.
Or Mid-Atlantic. I don't remember. Is it international or Mid-Atlantic?
International. Yeah, so to defend it internationally makes sense. Just the reason I don't have much of an opinion on it is because, honestly, other than what we've seen on AEW, I don't know much about CMLL. So
You're
that's
slacking.
being
No.
honest. Now,
That's from the
I-
Night Owl. You're slacking. No.
I did see a thing the other day where, and I even forget the guy's name now. There was a masked wrestler from CMLL that was wrestling on AEW
Hologram?
that everybody thought was Ricochet. And everybody kept saying, it's Ricochet, it's Ricochet. And I saw where Ricochet actually posted a clip of the guy wrestling and said, this is not me. If it was me, I would have lost a lot of weight, shrunk, and gotten my tattoos removed.
Wrestling fans just believe whatever they want, don't they?
But yeah, I see that. So I don't know a whole lot about CMLL. So
Well, I got you to watch New Japan, so I think we can change that. We'll get you to watch CMLL Fantastico, bro. It's the best thing ever. You'll love it. You'll like Lucha Libre. If you like Rey Mysterio or other masked wrestlers, you'll like Lucha Libre. CMLL is all about it.
Well, and it's not that I don't like their type of wrestling at all. It's just there's only so many hours in a day. So, I don't get to.
Is there anywhere outside of CMLL that you'd like to see MJF defend his title potentially down the road, or anybody specifically that you'd like to see?
I don't foresee him going anywhere. I mean, like you said, I would love to see him come over to WWE. But honestly, at the same time, I would not want to see him on a full-time basis with WWE because I think he's one they would misuse. I don't think they would use his talents correctly. So I think it would have been a mistake for him to sign with WWE when everybody thought that he might, because I think that would have hurt his career more. So, but to make an appearance would be cool if they could ever work that out. Just anywhere you can get to see someone the caliber of MJF wrestle is a plus in my book. So,
I mean, I've seen him in like other shows, like maybe not him specifically, but like international champions, former ones appear at certain shows with the belt. So like any of those, please. But
you just want him to come to MLW when they're in Florida, and
is that wrong?
And so that you can get the press pass and go see him.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? I don't even care if he likes me. Like, that's the best part, is that it's MJF, so he'd probably tell me I suck, and he'd be like, "Take your crappy photo and get out." Would be like EC3 was in the WWE. I mean, maybe EC3's been repping though. He's been doing hard on the NWA, but we have another question about that.
So, all right. Well, let's see here. All right, here we go.
Speak of the devil, this is my question.
And the question is... Nope, that's not it. Where did the question go? All right, Gabe, it was your question, so you can kind of sum up your question while I see if I can find the actual question.
Yeah, so I wanted to take the opportunity to mention we completely forgot that Nick Nemeth was AAA Mega Champion as well. So this dude is repping two brands right now. But when I chose this photo initially, I think our photo, the question that I gave was, out of this crop, is there anybody that you want to give flowers to, or that you mentioned that was, interested in seeing how they're at, or how do you feel about their reign thus far? Here we go. So I said, what's everyone's thoughts on the runs on the featured world champions? So we have Cody Rhodes as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Or no. He's the Universal Champion, isn't he?
Universal.
Yeah, and then Damian Priest is World Heavyweight Champion. Swerve Strickland is your AEW. Nick Nemeth is your TNA World and your AAA Mega Campeon. Mark Briscoe, correct, is the Ring of Honor World Champion. Tetsuya Naito is your IWGP Heavyweight Champion. And finally, EC3 is your NWA World Champion. This is a pretty big crop. I mean, I think about, where were we with the last champions prior to this? So it was Roman instead of Cody. Technically, it was Drew instead of Damian, but it was Drew for a minute and a half. Moose was champion in TNA. Who did Swerve beat? Was it MJF? No.
Swerve
He
beat
Joe.
Samoa Joe?
That's correct. He beat Joe. And then I don't remember. Mega Champion was vacated the last time. I think it was Vikingo, but he got injured, so he had to vacate the belt. But still, we can use that as a frame of reference. And
John Moxley.
Goodness, what's that?
John Moxley.
Yes, Moxley was the one who beat Naito for it the last time, and then finally EC3 beat Tyrus. Correct? I don't remember. For the NWA Championship.
That one I'm not 100% sure on, so
I have to double check. But I mean, I'll be the one to say it. I'm happy with who we have right now as our champions. I think they're very deserving. I think there's a nice crop of veterans who know what they're doing, a crop of newcomers that have the opportunity to say that they grabbed that brass ring, they worked hard enough to get it. I think there's a lot of favorable choices. I think there's a lot of I mean, I'm just kind of covering all my bases right here, Sean Haas. But I'm happy with Cody's run so far. I think the matches with AJ were phenomenal. I thought the match with Logan was amazing. I can't wait to see what happens going forward. Priest has honestly surprised me. I can't wait to see what this match with Gunther entails. If he does retain somehow, I wonder who he's going to fight next. Bronson Reed, maybe? No, that's me just suggesting people. Nick Nemeth, I don't want to see him lose either belt. I think he deserves both of them. I think he's been working his ass off. EC3 as the same, honestly. He's been holding it so long that it feels weird if somebody else actually takes that belt from him. So I just hope he hopes onto it for the longest time ever. Maybe not to break anybody's long-term record, but also it's NWA. So I'm you know what? We need to make new stars. That's where I'm at with it. I mean, what are your thoughts, Hollis? Anybody in particular you're liking so far? Anybody you're disliking that you're get that belt off of them?
No, I think there's a good group of people there. I think there's a lot of solid champions, and so I like the group that's there.
I completely slipped Naito and Mark Briscoe. By the way, Briscoe. I think he's a good champion. I just don't really pay attention to Ring of Honor, and I don't know what that says about it. I don't know what they're supposed to do. And then Naito, I just hope he holds up. I just want him to hold on to it. It feels like he needed to hold on to that before Moxley beat him, and then Moxley beat him, and I was all right, now can we hold on to it for a really long time?
My problem with Ring of Honor, and I've said it before, because I remember Ring of Honor from before AEW bought it. They were actually out of the Baltimore area, which is only about an hour from me. So, I knew about Ring of Honor, and I've gone to Ring of Honor shows. But since AEW bought it, I was kind of concerned when I heard they bought it. I was worried then that they were going to basically destroy it. And they haven't.
Did they destroy it, John?
They haven't done it justice. That's for sure. It's almost like it's all just one thing now. You see the Ring of Honor champions on AEW shows. AEW goes on Ring of Honor, and it's just
Kind of
it's
homogenized.
it's not even divided up as much as NXT and WWE. I mean, it's it's like it's all one thing, and I mean I know they're all owned by the same people, but still, they've kind of taken the shine from
Some kind of
ROH, in
effort
my
to
opinion.
differentiate it would be appreciated. I can agree with you on that only because I was one of the biggest detractors. I wanted Ring of Honor to succeed, and now I don't even feel like I hear from it. I feel like the only reason I keep up is Athena's still world women's champion. Okay, cool. And it's like that's not the reaction I want to have when I first started with this company. I really had high hopes for it, and it just seems like they've kind of not just like they've gotten away from the spirit of what Ring of Honor is supposed to be. Like the disconnect from AEW is one thing, but the fact that it doesn't feel like classic Ring of Honor just feels like the biggest comparison I have right now is WWE ECW, and that's not the feeling I want with Ring of Honor. It shouldn't feel like that.
Exactly. But yeah, other than that, I mean, because I even got to meet Mark and Jay Briscoe at Ring of Honor one time. Yeah, so there's a good group of champions right now throughout the business. So I don't know that there's any I'd say get the belt off of them. I think everybody's got a solid champion with solid representation, and
I don't think anybody landed there by accident.
right.
I'm like content with this crop of people. I'm like, you know what? That's a valid world champion.
Right. So I'm pretty happy with it. I think wrestling right now is just going in a good direction. So I'm happy with it all the way around right now. I mean, so all right. I think we have time for maybe one more because Dewan hasn't popped in. I thought he would, but he hasn't popped in. So
we can still cover the FWWC if anything. I mean, we have announcements, right?
Well, I don't know how much he's wanting to publicize yet. I mean, we can say that the tag tournament is officially concluded, and congratulations to Grim Reapers and Brothers in Arms. Those two teams have advanced to Summerstone to take on the House of Horrors tag team for the championship. And I know that we can officially say that Savior Saint has won Ruler of the Ring.
Well earned, I must say, by the way. This dude fought like crazy. Wasn't he in the losers bracket and then he worked his way back up, or am I mistaken? Or did he just work his way up the whole tournament?
I think he was. I think he was in the losers bracket and worked his way back up. So I know that we can say that much officially. And I mean, it's pretty obvious. Jason Curtis and myself have been building towards a Summerstone match for the Hardcore Championship. And so, I do know that that's going to be coming. I don't know if he's announced any of the other matches officially to the public yet. So I don't know that he would be ready for.
We have so many confirmations, though.
So I don't want to give anything away. Although I will say, because I know Remy has already put it out in promo, that he has selected his two, and he will be in a triple threat match at Summerstone for the World Championship. And I believe he's already put out in promo who that'll be. So just in case, I won't put the actual names out there, but go check out the page. I'm sure you can find the promo, and I'm sure that you can find out who it is there.
It's a lot going down in Summerstone for the FWWC. I mean, we still have a lot of names in the FED that are working their ways back up. I mean, the tag tournament is underway, is already finished. King, or what was it? Rule of the Ring. Excuse me. I almost called it King of the Ring. I honestly think it was unexpected. I was not expecting Saint to win. I was rooting for him though, so I want to take the opportunity to give the man his dues and say congrats, man. And I hope to see where you go here, because that's half the battle is winning the actual event. The second half is delivering. And we have a lot of other matches left now to announce for Summerstone. So keep your eyes open and be sure to check out what's going on in the FWWC, folks. But with that, did we have anything else we wanted to cover here, Haas? Or?
Well, actually, I believe our guest is backstage getting ready, so we are about ready to bring him in once he's good to go. And when you are good to go, just give me a thumbs up, and we'll be glad to get you in here. Okay, so he's already given thumbs up. So, all right, let's go ahead and get to our guest then. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show at this time a guest who is been a longtime member of the Wrestle Talk podcast, and we've had him on here a few times, and it's always good to get to talk with him. He's been around the West Virginia area. I believe he's been in the Virginia area, and he's really all around. So he's won many championships in his career, and so let's catch up with the one and only, the Wild Man, Robbie Paige.
Welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
What's going on, guys?
So, Robbie, thank you for coming. We really enjoy getting to sit down and talk with you and have you on. It's been a while since you've been on, so thank you for being here.
This might be my first time meeting you, actually, so it's a pleasure, man.
Hey, man. Nice to meet you. Yeah, a lot of stuff's been going on here last month with me. As you can tell, I got some stuff going on here, and
will you be able to tell us about that on the show later?
Yeah,
seems like a story and a half.
Yeah, I can. Well, I'm gonna have to talk about it because right now, got some health things going on, so it's kind of put a halt on the Wild Man's in-ring action at the moment.
So, why don't you go ahead and bring everybody up to speed here as to, since you've been on last, what's Robbie Paige been up to since then?
Since the last time I've been on this show, it's been a while, man. I've been through hell and back. I've had went through a divorce. I've been homeless. I've went through a lot of shit, man. Had a car wreck, got hit head on. I've had my second knee surgery in 2020, and then It was a long road back to the ring, man, and then I started getting back in the groove and doing my thing again, and then about a month ago, I started feeling weird and like you know your body, especially after you've been a wrestler for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, and something just you're used to your everyday pains and your normal. So when something just don't feel normal, your normal pain, you know what I mean? Like I was like, I got to get checked out, and come to find out, I have blood clots, and they put me on medicine immediately. And basically, I had one last match before I started taking the medicine, and for the next 3 months at least, I can't wrestle. I got to kind of take it easy. The medicine's making me really uneasy and kind of like tired, and it's just sucks, man. And because of the medicine, and anxiety's way high. Your stress level. You got to maintain your job. You got to continue doing what you normally do, and I've been kind of lightheaded on this medicine. And I was at the doctor last week, and I just completely blacked out, passed out, hit the face first on the concrete, man. End up in the hospital for about almost 36 hours, I would say. And this knot on my head, right here, was about 3 times bigger, and my eye was swelled up and all that. But they don't. I got to wear. So this is crazy, because I mean, you've been around me wrestling a long time, and I'm in a pretty good shape and everything. And now it's like I turned 43 less than a month ago, and I feel like my body's falling apart on me. Like it's crazy. I got to wear this heart monitor thing for 30 days because they want to weed out any kind of, you know what I mean? So it's scary. It really is. It's you go from thinking one thing, and then now you're like your whole game plan is something else, and it's like wrestling's always going to be in my blood, but right now it's kind of like I had to completely stop everything like that because of what my situation is.
I mean, I can definitely understand that. I mean, the thing is too, I asked earlier in the program. That was the thing. It's like I wasn't ready for the story that came with it. But that you're still kicking, man. I'm glad you'll be able to take the time out of your day for the show. And I mean, to build off of what you were talking about, I mean, what's the disconnect? I mean, because you go from working every day and doing stuff towards wrestling, and wrestling, as a very common thing, make it a part of your schedule. So what's been the disconnect? I mean, like, has there been anything you've been doing? Do you still stay in shape regularly at the house, or you focus mostly on like just wrestling or resting? Excuse me.
Well, they said I can still work out, go to the gym, kind of thing. I just can't risk
No bumps.
actually physical and taking bumps or getting hit with something or whatever until the 3 month, because I have to be on the medicine for at least 3 months to make sure it gets rid of what's going on, and then they can reevaluate the situation and see if it's working and what actually is causing the issue. There's just a lot of questions right now, and I just got to kind of do what they tell me to do because, unfortunately, we don't get any younger.
Yeah. See, as the young blood, I gotta remember that. Because everybody feels the need to let me know. And I feel like it comes from a place of like, you'll find out. You'll find out the hard way.
Yeah, man, and I don't feel my age like at heart. I mean, I feel it on my body like some days, but like you don't really sit and think about things until something like this actually hits you right in the face.
Both physically and metaphorically, obviously. But
Yes.
oh man, I wanted to mention. I mean, what's recovery been like? I mean, I feel like in a lot of moments where we have close calls. I mean, has anybody reached out to you? I mean, have you ever had anybody
I've
come out and
had a
talk to you?
few. Well, I've had a few people reach out to me. It would be nice to hear from more people. Because I've had my hand in hundreds of people's careers and helping and just being there and doing. It's a big thing that I was a part of for a long time, and when you go through things like this, it's like just hey, how's it going, or hey, I heard you're going through some rough times or whatever. It's just the thought that counts sometimes. It really does.
Just to know that you're in somebody's head, that they're like, hey, I was there at some point and this guy checked in on me. So now it's nice to see the vice versa.
Exactly.
I can understand that.
Yeah, no, honestly, I know Susie. I know she's watching right now, and myself. We actually didn't know you were going through all that, and but you'll definitely be in our thoughts and prayers and everything, and just sorry to hear about everything that's happened.
Yeah, man, it came out of nowhere. I had an awesome match against Victor Benjamin at Voltage Wrestling, and about 2 days later, I noticed that my hand was like 2 times bigger than this hand, and I was like, I've had a kink in my neck, but I don't think a pinched nerve would really swell my hand up like that. I better go get it looked at. And that's when I found out, they sent me to go get an ultrasound, and that's where they found the blood clot in my arm right here. So they told me that I could wrestle that weekend, and then that would be my last match for at least 3 or more months. And so I had fun. I think you guys were at my match. Were you at the House of Pain match, you and Susan?
The last one they had, we weren't. No.
Okay, well, Blackhawk was my partner, and my little man Ethan got to be my manager, and he ended up getting involved in the match and low blowing Killer Kylo and giving him a stunner, and it was awesome. So at least if that's my last match for a while, I got to go out and do what I wanted to do and have some fun and do some stuff that my 8-year-old will remember forever. So
something good came out of it, and that's what we like to hear about in wrestling.
Yeah. It's too bad that we missed that, because I know Susie absolutely loves little Ethan, and we remember, and actually, like I said, I know she's watching, and she told me in a message a minute ago that she put it in, but I don't see it in the comments for whatever reason. But one of the first times that we saw Robbie, he was wrestling against Chris Klein, and they were outside of the ring, and Chris had hit Robbie, and little Ethan ran up and popped Chris Klein and said, "Don't you hit my daddy."
It is unrestrained. That's awesome.
So I'm sure he really enjoyed getting to play your manager and get involved in it.
Oh yeah. I'm sure they'll post up the match sometime in the near future too. They usually do. It just takes them a little while.
So I know you said you've had your hand in a lot of people's careers, and I know there's been several people we've had on the show that they say that you were one of the people that trained them. And, you know, Gabe, he's actually in Florida, and he wants to get into the wrestling business. And, you know, we've actually gave him Kakoa's name and told him he'd be a good one to link up with. But what suggestions would you have for somebody like Gabe who wants to get into the professional wrestling business?
Well, if he's in Florida, in NOLA, I think Enola, Florida, that's where one of my students, Eddie Page, runs his league called Empire Wrestling, Empire Pro. So I can't. He's gonna slap me, but
I'm typing it down. I'll narrow it down and I'll hit him up.
His Facebook is Tyler Nimmons, so you look that name up.
Tyler what?
Nimmons, N-I, yeah.
N-I, here, hold on. We're doing this live on the show. But okay, so Empire Wrestling, all right, and then did you have any others?
Yeah, I think Gangrel has a school in Florida too.
See, that's hilarious because it's just like my handle. This was unintentional, by the way. There's another Grell. Not that I don't like Gangrel, I love him. So I would love to check out his school. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, he's a really cool dude too.
And then, Haas, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask him before we move on? I had one I wanted to, but I wasn't sure if you had any more.
Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to throw you a kind of a lob here because it's, you know, I'm not the greatest with questions here, but you know, your moniker, the Wild, is okay. So just to clarify, is it Wild Man or Wild Thang?
Wild Man.
Wild Man. All right.
Yeah.
So where do we get the name? Where does the story for the Wild Man come into play, Robbie?
Oh, high school shenanigans and just I was on the high school wrestling team, and just say I did WWE moves when I was supposed to do some collegiate moves. So I got the name Wild Man, you know, because I'm suplexing people like, you know, DDTing somebody, you know, stuff like that.
I'm just imagining a Russian leg sweep, and they're just like,
yeah, well, it's like
is that legal? It's like, I guess, I don't know.
If I'm going to lose the match, might as well go out in style, right? That's
the Jim Duggan special.
But yeah, that started back when I was like a senior in high school, and just kind of carried through. And you know, I was a little bit wild and crazy in my younger years. You know, now I'm more of the mild man. That's what I get called a lot. You know.
I think we could make that the new moniker, though. I don't know what the future holds for your career, but I do think we could get the mild man T-shirts. Right? I think some people like to vibe it. You know, it's kind of like buffalo sauce, and I mean this with all due respect. Sometimes you want wild sauce, sometimes you want mild sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got the mild man Wrestle Talk podcast exclusive. But I just needed to know what the clarification on the name was, because Haas was saying man, the moniker said Thang, so I was just, you know, I want to make sure I wasn't having a lightfoot situation again. All right, I got enough enemies making mistakes with nicknames.
Well, Renee is the one that named the show Wild Thang, but his moniker is Wild Man. So
that's on me for not talking to Renee.
It's all good.
And speaking of Renee, there he is right there, and he's mentioning how we all hit our boys with stunners and suplexes back in grade school.
For me, it was at the pool. it was either that or a trampoline. It was so dangerous.
Trampoline or the amateur mats.
Always.
So, and I believe the name of the group you were trying to think of is Florida Wrestling Empire.
There you go.
Thank you, Hardcore Hollis. Now I have a name
Thank
to
you.
a face. Awesome.
Thank you.
So I'll be sure to hit him up and tell him that Robbie sent me.
There you go.
But Hollis, was there anything else you wanted to ask?
I know we've had you on several times, and I'm sure you've probably answered before, but for those who don't know you, how did Robbie Paige get into the world of professional wrestling?
Well, I was in the world of martial arts since I was probably about 9 years old, and I was working my way to eventually try to fight in a cage, and I was doing kickboxing, got hurt, and had to take time off from doing everything. And I just happened, was like, well, I'll go to a wrestling show, because I used to do that when I was a kid, 13 through 16 with all my buddies in high school. We would go to all the local shows and stuff, but I hadn't went for a while, because, life, you know what I mean? And I was like, shoot, I'll go to one of these and check it out. And I go, and, I was 20, almost 22, and I haven't really worked out in about 6 months, but I was, in my opinion, I was still in better shape than 90% of the people that were on that show. And I was like, well, if these guys can do it, I know I can do it. And about a week later, I was trying to find, I could have probably investigated more into different places and stuff, but I was trying to find the closest, the most affordable place that I could go to the fastest. You know what I mean? I didn't want to wait. I just wanted to see if I could do it. And so Hagerstown, the Neil Superior House of Pain, is the closest, most affordable place that I could find that I was able to get to the quickest. So long story short, 3 years of going down there 5 days a week and 2 road shows a month and working a full-time job, I finally, graduated and was able to leave for on my own and stuff and start traveling and trying to get, my name out there, because that's honestly is the only way you can do it. And there's so much I can talk about, like about training and certain things like that, but we don't have all day. But it's like there's could have been a lot more put into what came out of that, and a lot of more of us guys from my generation might be further on down the road. You know what I mean? Like it's not just the trainees, it's also like the trainers and the place that you train at. You know what I mean? There has to be opportunities. You don't never get opportunities, nothing ever happens, and a lot of times you get smoke blowed up your ass and promises that are never kept. And there's a lot of shady, dirty stuff in the wrestling business, as long as goes with the positive and good stuff too. I mean, it just sometimes one always outweighs the other. There's never really a balance. I've learned that over the years because, I was a trainee, I was, a student, and then I actually trained people, and I ran my own shows. I booked for other people. I did storylines, I set up the ring. I've done every aspect that there can be. So I've seen all the good and all the bad. You know what I mean? It's like, just because I haven't signed a contract or haven't been on TV doesn't mean that I'm not a professional and don't know what I'm doing. You know?
I mean, I think I can definitely stand to learn something. If I'm being transparent here.
And you know, I've been doing it for 20 years. I've had at least 2,400 matches. I've wrestled in many different states, many different places, many different people on that's been on TV. You know, people I got to grow up watching, and I've got to meet all kinds of people and all kinds of fans, and I wouldn't trade any of that for anything. You know what I mean? It's an experience that you only experience if you put in the time and the work and the travel and you know what I mean? It doesn't just happen overnight, and it doesn't just happen either, you know. Some guys, I mean, look at LA Knight, man. I mean, he's from Hagerstown, and he's been doing this for 30 years, and he finally got a big break. You know what I mean? And then you got guys that are born in the business and get open door, and then you got guys that have friends. There's something to something. You know what I mean? It's not all about hard work and loyalty and all that shit, because trust me, I've put my heart and soul into many places in my local area because I just wanted to be a part of something that thrives in my community, and I always get stabbed in the back. So I'm to that point. I mean, I'm going to be straight up with you guys, man. You know what I mean? I'm tired of like sugarcoating it and all that shit, because somebody will be nice to your face and turn around and tell 10 people something shitty about you that ain't really true. You know what I mean? And that's the crap that you got to deal with in the wrestling business, which is part of the reason I don't. There's one half I like, and the other half I don't. And to be in the business and to experience the good part, you got to put up with the bad part as much as possible. So
I think that's the realest advice you can get anybody in the wrestling business, especially in 2024. Let me tell you.
I mean, it is, man. It is, because when I first started training, it was like the tail end of that era where you had to prove yourself. You had to go through some hazing. You had to get bullied around. You had to get, you know, spit on or whatever before you got any kind of respect. Nowadays, you go on the internet, buy a pair of boots, and know the guy running the show, and you get a spot on the show. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. Guys allowed to be in the locker room that have not earned that right to be in the locker room. You know what I mean? And then I got to shake that guy's hand knowing that he can't go the same amount that I can go. And I'm going to have to dumb myself and my skill and my entertainment to the crowd down so this guy can keep up, because he hasn't put the time in the gym or in the ring or in the training that I have put in. And that's the kind of shit that pisses me off in the business. I mean,
seems like the kind of stuff you can't avoid, honestly. No matter how hard you try, you always get paired with the one guy that you're like,
well, and it's not always like that, but it's just, you know, so if some of these,
for the worst.
Yeah, if some of these guys that would experience some of the stuff that I experienced, or people before me that had it even worse, you know what I mean? It's just, they wouldn't take things so lightly and nonchalant, and they would take it more serious, because it is a serious business. It's not all fun and games. You know what I mean? If you're out there to have fun and you're not mentally taking care of your opponent and making sure things are safe and making sure things are going the way they're supposed to be going, then you shouldn't be in that ring. That's just my opinion.
I'm not sure who said it, but I know that for me, and I think a lot of other people out there, and probably yourself included, Robbie, that wrestling is all about the boys. It's all about doing this job safely enough so that everybody gets to go home and congratulate each other on a job well done. So when you're not looking out for the people looking out for you, you're doing something wrong in the wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fundamental lesson that a lot of people can't understand. And that's how we end up with a lot of bad situations, But I appreciate the insight because I like to think that as a 26-year-old that could have something like this just go right over their head, it's nice to have somebody tell me like it is on the Wrestle Talk podcast to my face, Well,
I'm saying, especially if you haven't even signed up for a wrestling school yet, at least now
I have not.
At least, but I'm saying everywhere is different. Everywhere. Okay, this is what I try to explain to some of my students is everybody's going to teach you different, but the same. And if that makes any sense at all, then you can probably make it in the wrestling business because everybody has their own version of the same thing. 50 different versions of the same thing or the same kind of drill or the same kind of combination or the same kind of reversal. This way to get into it, the way to get out of it, the 6 different reversals, the same way, but shown different how to do it. It's all where you go, and as many people that you come in contact with, you just feed off of everybody and learn. So something about everything. That is the best advice that I could really give to anybody is, you're going to learn from somebody everywhere different, but as long as you're open to do that, you will go far and learn, and people will, you'll earn respect from people because you're learning different ways how to do it from different people, even though sometimes it seems like you're learning the same thing. Everybody has a different philosophy or psychology or, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. It's part of the reason I like watching videos on it. I actually have clips on my YouTube of arm drags, and it's they go through the detail of just showing you about how it's well, this is a Mexican arm drag, and it's well, what's the difference? It's well, you kind of tuck in a little lower, and you kind of throw their shoulder into it. It's the little nuances that you think won't matter, but in wrestling, it makes a big difference. I would imagine that I'm doing us a favor by keeping notes on this kind of stuff.
Look, something I would suggest for you, since you're wanting to learn some stuff. You know who Mike Quackenbush is, right?
Yes, I can't say that.
He used to have a podcast. I forget what it was called, but listen to it. And he's starting a thing on Facebook now too, where he's throwing up little clips and tidbits. That dude, he Chikara is a whole different style of wrestling, but the psychology that comes from him it's universal. You know what I mean? And it's different. Some of it's unorthodox, and and I knew what the weirdest thing was when I was 15. I was going to indie shows watching Mike Quackenbush, and I was a tape trader when I was younger, and I got these backyard wrestling tapes that had this dude Mike Quackenbush on it, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
You hear the name and you think who's this guy? What?
Yeah, and then I saw his name on an indie card in Martinsburg, and then in Hagerstown, and then PA, and I was like, okay. And then years later, I get to meet him at a seminar, and I'm like one of the standout people there, and then fast forward a couple more years later, two of my students, the Grimy Scots, they have their own thing now called the Renaissance Rumble, and they were doing weekend workshop things, and they were doing it at the Wrestle Factory, and I was invited as a guest trainer to go to the Wrestle Factory for a whole weekend and work with a bunch of people and do this really cool thing, man. And that's what I'm saying. Like, even though I haven't got the big bucks and ain't on TV or whatever, I've got to do a lot of stuff that nobody has got to do. You know what I mean? Like, I've put the time in, and I've put the work in, and I've got to do things like, if in the grand scheme of everything, okay, realistically, 43 years old, having some health issues right now, chances are my days are numbered, okay, when it comes to that, okay? But I've always enjoyed being a trainer, being a coach, and so I'm going to say this out there that all these people listening, maybe watching, you can test my training ability to students that I've trained that are out there on the indie scene now. I dedicated 7 years of my life to a group of kids at the time, to give them the basic everything, their first matches, the hands-on training. I trained them on mats before I put them in rings. So then when they got in the ring, all they had to really do was learn the ropes and the corners and stuff like that. So I was taking them to places wherever I was wrestling, getting their foot in the door, getting them tryout matches, getting them on dark, in battle royals, stuff like that. They eventually started getting booked at all these different places, and and I eventually was running my own league for a while so that they would get exclusive like matches to work on stuff, because my goal was help this group of kids be the next generation. And when they start getting out there and they can say, hey, well, this guy trained me and this guy helped me. And then that promoter might be like, well, hey, we'll tell your trainer to come and we'll put him on the show. And then that helps me get another opportunity. And I was doing that for a long time for a lot of people, man. And there's good and bad to that, but I try to think of all the good because of what I see some of my students doing, like TJ Sykes and Jacob Edwin and Jason Braditz and Eddie Page and Ashley America, Tess Valentine. I did a lot of work with a lot of people. I helped Brandon Scott when he first started. I helped whipped him in shape and got him ready for what he was prepared for, and so many people coming down, the Grimy Scots. I had my hand with, I mean, I can just keep naming people, but like I've helped different leagues thrive in the local areas and stuff because I put in the work. I go around and put up the posters. I try to get sponsors. I try to get contracts with buildings. I try to do stuff that even the promoters of the own leagues weren't doing. You know what I mean? Like, I was gung ho when it came to my local community town, you know, because I wanted wrestling there, like, to thrive, because it was never like something that was big in my area in the community. And when I was doing stuff for IPE, we were doing shows at the Hedgesville Volunteer Fire Department, and all the money that they raised from us renting the building and the concessions and stuff helped them um, raise enough money to build a back parking lot so that they had more room for their fire equipment in the front. And you know, we raised money for a boy who uh, unfortunately ended up losing his battle with cancer, but we raised several thousands of dollars to help his battle. And unfortunately, you know, it was a loss, but we've done a lot of stuff in this community, wrestling related, you know, for the community. And that's what wrestling has always been about, you know, back in the day and stuff. It's always been like a community thing and getting your community involved, and that's how you increase your fan base, and that's how you increase your audience, and people want to be more involved because they feel like they're part of something in their community. You know, it's not just this show that shows up once or twice a month, maybe, you know, and come around and charge $25 tickets. You know, no, this is your homegrown talent, the guys who, you know, you're going to try to run a show, you know, every other week, and you know, just be part of the community, the fair, you know, just do stuff like that. I mean, that's what Gavin Jackson's trying to bring that back with WDWA, which is a good thing, because you know, the previous owner of that league is I don't have anything good to say, so, and I won't.
You
So,
and Hardcore Haas.
all right, don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all, so I'm not saying anything at all. All I can say is Gavin Jackson is doing an excellent job. But yeah, I mean, and that's I think that's what would help wrestling too, you know, because for so long wrestling was given a bad name, and there's so many of these leagues that would come in and put on shows and trash the venue and just give wrestling a bad name, and nobody wanted to give it a chance, you know what I mean? And so when you do get that opportunity and you show that you're willing to work with the community and you're willing to be, you know, civilized human beings, you're more susceptible to get people that want to sponsor your event or buy a whole bunch of tickets, or, you know, just when you do what you're supposed to do, better things happen, you know, because I was around when there was still that, if you go to Martinsburg and you see their posters, you tear them down. You know what I mean?
The tribalism about it, yeah.
That's what it all used to be about. Instead of working together and be like, hey, okay, if you're working this weekend and running the show, we'll wait until the end of the month, you know, or whatever, vice versa. You know, there's just too many people on a very small scale think they're Vince McMahon. I'll just put it that way. You know, like,
not in this lifetime.
Well, and one thing for sure, I do know, I've heard from several different places. I've heard good things about you, and you know, Bernie Deal is actually in the comments. You know, and you know, he said you've always been a pro's pro, so you know, you do have a good name out there and a good reputation going around. So
yeah, I mean, and I've tried to treat people right. I've tried to do the right thing. I've tried And there's been plenty of times where I've been burnt bad and I've had to just bite my tongue and move on about things, but after 20 years, I feel like I've been through enough and I've experienced enough and I've done enough that I have a right to have an opinion and I have a right to express it. I mean, 20 years, I think I've put my time in, and I've had at least 20 students out there that are getting booked and wrestling all over the place. And there's been a lot of other people that I've helped do whatever. Most of the time they say, "Hey, Robbie, can you help me do this?" And I'm like, "Sure." You know what I mean? All I ask in return is the same. You know what I mean? Like, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. That's how it should go. If we shake hands, that's how it should be. I'm old school. I was raised with a stern hand, and I believe your word is your bond. And that is not the truth most of the time in the day and age that we live. So actions speak louder than words nowadays. So if you say something, you prove it to me, then you earn my respect, and you'll have it until you give me a reason not to. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it is, and that's what I do too. I will tell you, I'll sell 50 tickets for your show and get you 2 sponsors, and I guarantee you the day of the show you will have 50 tickets sold and 2 sponsors.
So when Robbie speaks, he speaks the truth. So we know. No, I wanted to say on behalf of the Night Owl, I think you will have no hang-ups on this show about speaking your mind or having your piece about stuff when it comes to pro wrestling or anything for that matter. So trust me and Haas, we're not the police on this kind of stuff. All right, you want it, you want it here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. You get it raw. All right,
Right.
we keep it real.
That's right,
Opinions.
man.
Everybody's
It's
got
like,
one.
and everywhere where I've, even if I haven't had my own dojo, like where I train other people and stuff, like I'm 43 years old, and well, let's just say 40 years old at the time, possibly, a couple years ago when I was training people at WWA, and I've trained people at EWA, Elite, House of Pain, CPW, you name it, Phoenix Pro. But when I put them through drills, it's like these younger generation don't understand. Like, hey, if I'm 40 years old and I'm still going and you're sucking wind, there's something wrong. So it's all I'm saying is like more. You don't have to be a good, well-rounded wrestler. You don't have to be all jacked up. You don't have to be all, Batista and stuff like that. But it is good to have a good cardio, endurance, stamina, because you can be big, small, whatever. But when you lose your wind, you lose everything. Like, your focus goes away, your strength becomes less because you are focused more on your breathing and less on everything else. So, like, the more in my 20 years, the more you're able to keep your wind and keep going, and the better your focus is, the better you are to stay in the match and keep control. And if your opponent loses where they're at, you are still focused and can keep the match going. Too many things happen nowadays where something goes wrong and they just completely stop, or they do the same thing 3 times over and over again, or whatever. you got to be able to just kind of like go with the flow and keep going and get back to where you were. And that way you kind of mask your mess up, but it's really not a mess up because the audience didn't know. The only people that know are you and maybe somebody in the back who's watching. But if you make it obvious by stopping and, doing all this other stuff, then everybody knows that you just messed up. So that's just part of like, when trust me, and I've been chopped before and just had the wind knocked out of me. But at the same time, I know I got to get ready to take a hip toss out of the corner and a big bump and then powder to the floor. Then I'll get my air back. You see what I'm saying? Like, I have to maintain my focus until I can get out on the floor, and then I have that time to recuperate. If I would take that chop in the corner and completely lose my focus, now I might not make that hip toss out of the corner and might not land right. Now I'm going to mess up my hip, and you know what I'm saying? So it's like you got to try to keep that train of thought until you get to where you need to be. And that's years of experience and time, and memory, and
I mean, I definitely think it'll come in handy. I think it goes without saying that Robbie knows what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I hope you don't mind me going out like a first name.
It's all good, man. Like, I've put a lot of time into wrestling, like a lot.
Well, and speaking of Robbie knowing what he's talking about, you've been on the show before, so I'm sure you know that we always have what we call the Wrestle Talk Podcast World Famous Game Show Challenge. And, Gabe seems to think he knows enough that he could take you in the Game Show Challenge.
What is the Game Show Challenge?
So do you want to let him know how we handle the questions here on the Game Show Challenge Hardcore?
So with our Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge, I would be asking you questions about a certain topic. And whenever you think you know the answer, you just shout it out. And the first person to get 2 out of 3 questions right is actually the winner. And tonight's category would actually be wrestling nicknames.
Wrestling nicknames, like as in wrestlers' nicknames?
Yeah, I would give you information about nicknames of 3 wrestlers, and you would have to tell me
who's the Nature Boy, I guess.
Yeah,
that's like a bad example, but
so are you game to go to take on Gabe in the Game Show Challenge?
Sure.
All right. Well, we got a little bit of music to start this off, and then as soon as
It's a distracting music.
All right. Oh, I know what's wrong. Welcome to this week's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 falls. Our contestants are the Wrestle Talk Podcast, Gabriel Arsene, and the Wild Man, Robbie Paige. In a few moments, I will ask you 3 questions about a particular professional wrestling topic. Whenever you think you know the answer to the question, just shout out your answer. The first person to win 2 falls will win tonight's game show challenge. If you shout out an answer and it is not correct, feel free to shout out another answer. This is not a one and done. You can shout out as many as you need. Tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast game show challenge category is nicknames. I will give you information about nicknames of 3 professional wrestlers. You need to name the wrestler. When you think you know the answer, shout out your answer. The first person to win 2 out of 3 falls wins tonight's game show challenge. So, all right. Gabe, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Robbie, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. Question number 1. He was known as the All-American.
Jack Swagger?
Jack Swagger is correct.
The All-American American, I must clarify. Before he started rocking the bucket hat and is he still there? I don't mean to go off on a tangent. I know
He got released from
He got
AEW.
released. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope he's doing okay, but like he wasn't doing it.
They brought him into that Voltage show at Hagerstown Park or whatever. What was it? 2 months ago?
I think he's just
Yeah,
biding
I remember
his time.
seeing that.
Anyways.
All right. Question number 2. He was the bad guy.
Razor Ramon.
Razor Ramon
I couldn't
is
say it
correct.
fast enough. I was like, wait. Because my brain, I'm used to calling him the bad man. So I didn't immediately get the bad guy. But
All right, so we're 1-1. Whoever gets the next question right will win tonight's game show challenge. So the next nickname, the franchise.
Shane Douglas.
Shane Douglas is correct. So Robbie Paige has won tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast game show challenge.
Which was on my bucket list to wrestle, and I was supposed to wrestle him at the end of August for Voltage, and now I'm not going to be able to. I think Brandon Scott took my place.
we'll have to try and talk to him about rescheduling because I want to see that match, right? But we
Dude,
gotta
it was on my bucket list because I grew up watching him when he was a dynamic dude and teaming with Ricky Steamboat, and then changed my, because ECW changed my perspective of wrestling, and RVD's like my favorite wrestler of all time. So and I've been on at least a dozen shows with Shane and talked to him and actually, but I've never got to wrestle him. And I was like, man. And I talked to Mike from Voltage, and he was like, well, we're bringing him in August in Martinsburg. And how would you like to wrestle him? I was like, well, hell yeah. But then 3 weeks ago, I get the news about having blood clots and stuff, and I had to send a message to everybody that I wrestle for that basically I'm not going to be able to wrestle for probably till next year, I'm going to assume, just to be safe, because, 3 months I might still have to, you know what I mean? So I'm just playing it safe. But I'm sure Brandon Scott and Shane Douglas is going to be a hell of a match too. So
I'm sure he'll dedicate it to you as well. All right. He's
that would be awesome.
On behalf of you for sure. But we wanted to take the opportunity, since you were successful here tonight on the game show challenge. Hardcore Haas had some victory music. So did you have that on the ready, Haas?
I do have it right here.
It's like 80s month.
I believe it's actually from Final Fantasy. It's the fanfare. But what was this, episode 4? What is it, 92? 492, and the Wild Man, Robbie, here to see us to the end of the episode. Man, it's a pleasure to have you again on the show. Obviously you're a regular full-time member here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast family, but the opportunity to be able to meet you, man. It's a pleasure. It's, from me, from Hardcore Haas, from all the guys in the back. We just want to say thank you again. And I want to be able to take the opportunity to say, I wish you a speedy recovery, bro. You'll be in my thoughts. I really do hope you're able to get back in there and have that dream match with Shane Douglas. Cause I think we're all waiting to see it, but we want to make sure you're in one piece first, bro. So,
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, I remember Shane Douglas was at WDWA one night, and he was wrestling Shane Malice, and Susan was sitting there, and she was yelling, "Let's go, Shane," or something like that. And Shane Malice looked at her and said, "Which one?" She says, "Doesn't matter. I can't lose, can I?" So, and Bernie says, definitely will make sure when you give the thumbs up, he'll give Gavin or Mike booking Shane and get that booked officially. So
that would be awesome, Bernie. That would be freaking awesome. Even if it's my last freaking match that I ever get to wrestle, that would be awesome.
You got to get him on the hook.
So Bernie definitely working that for you. So, if you want, before we let you go, you want to shout out your social media so that people know where they can follow you and see when you'll get back in the ring again.
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook on Robbie Paige, Instagram Wildman Robbie Paige. I'm on TikTok Wildman160. And hit me up. I'm hopefully be at some of the local shows, maybe trying to sell some merchandise and just shooting the shit with the boys and seeing some fans and stuff, because even though I can't be in the ring, I can't stay away, you know what I mean? I still got to be around it. Still got to check in on things and see how things are going. And I even told Gavin, I was just throwing it out there, I might not be able to compete in the ring, but I got enough experience and trained enough people. Maybe if he needed some extra authority with some stripes, I could accompany that,
Ooh, got the exclusive here.
Yeah. So, well, we definitely hope to catch you soon. And before we let you go, do you have any closing words for the Wrestle Talk family?
Just everybody, you don't know when your day is numbered, so appreciate everything you have in life and appreciate the people who treat you right. Treat them right too, because, tomorrow may never come, and it would suck if that's the case and you never get to tell somebody you appreciate them or thank them or anything like that, and I try to tell my kids I love them every day, whether my ex lets me talk to them or not. I make sure that they know, and I appreciate everything that has been given to me in this business, but it hasn't been given to me with a handout. I've earned my respect and earned my place. I feel that I have put enough work and put enough time and helped enough people that, when my time comes, people will show their respect, and that's what it's really all about, leaving your mark on this world, and hopefully it's not a shitty one.
All
You gotta
right.
get
Well,
that in writing.
and Bernie says you've got his gears turning. So,
well, and you talk about appreciation here, Robbie. From the bottom of our hearts, from Hardcore Haas, myself, the Night Owl, Jeremy Carp, Justin. I'm trying to name everybody. Big Daddy P, Chris Rodell, and was I missing anybody else? But if not, we appreciate you for taking the time to be able to come into the Wrestle Talk podcast, to be able to talk about, a lot of people that obviously mean a very great deal to you. So, thank you for being able to take the time and, commemorate this episode almost of sorts. So,
And Susie says, give Ethan a hug for her.
I will. I get him on Thursday for 10 days. It's my second summer break with him. So, I think isn't there a show? What's the next WDWA show?
August 3rd.
Okay, so I have Ethan that Saturday. I might be able to come to the show just to hang out on the 3rd.
So it looks like Susan might be able to hug her himself.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm saying, because after that I won't see him for a week or whatever. So yeah, that might work out.
So, all right. Well, we hope to see you sooner rather than later, Robbie. So we thank you for coming.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Robbie Paige, everybody.
Take it easy, man. That was great.
All right, another great interview in the books.
Dude. We're so used to this, man. That's the thing. You were hitting me up before this show started, and it was one of those things where it's like, you guys can't see it because it's in our group chat, but it's like Night Owl is hailing me like, "Yo, Gabe came to the rescue." I'm like, why you got to make it sound so dramatic? It's just me and Haas. We do this because we like this show. We like coming here, being able to talk to amazing guests like the Wild Man. All right, with Susan in the comments and Assad and Jimmy Harris and everybody. This is why we do this. We're on our road to episode 500, but we make sure we count the steps along the way.
Well, and I'm sure you're gonna be seeing my ugly face plenty here in the next month, while the Night Owl is out on vacation down in Mexico. So we're gonna have a little slack to pick up with him gone, but the train will chug along, and we will just keep right on forwards up to episode. I believe he said he
was meeting Dario Cueto there. They had to talk some official business. Very hush hush. No, but don't ever talk that down to yourself. All right, Hardcore Hoss. You and me, we're the ones making this happen right now. You ain't got an ugly mug. You got a mug for TV. All right, and I got a mug that's ready for here to talk all the smack on the Wrestle Talk podcast, whether it's the Night Owl, whether it's Jeremy Carp, it doesn't matter. No, it does. Because we love you guys.
As always, before we get out of here,
consideration paid for by the following.
You mind if I handle these ones? I'm on a roll.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So as always, folks, the Wrestle Talk podcast would like to thank our fantastic sponsors: Royal Mills Transportation, head by one Mr. DeJuan Mills; Nobleman's Barber Lounge in Kansas City, Missouri. Ask for Pete the Barber; Kincaid Arcade at Oak Park Mall; Interstate 70 Sports Media. Jeremy Carp, I keep shouting him out. Be sure to check him out. He loves to talk sports. Little Popeye Designs, Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers. That's where you can pick yours up. And of course, the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. We got that done. I'd say we handled that pretty well. I was getting off on a tangent there, so you saved me with those sponsors. But
yeah. So another one in the books, and well, I know I'll be back next week. I believe I may have the one and only the Hall of Famer Luke Roberts coming with me, man. I'm sure it's going to be another good show.
You'll have to stay tuned. But with that taken care of, episode 492 is in the books. Coming to you from the young line with the old soul, Gabriel Arcin, the longest reigning FWWC hardcore champion, Hardcore Haas, and everybody in the Wrestle Talk podcast family. This has been Wrestle Talk Podcast, episode 492 in the books. Have a good night.